what I'm doing next is I'm going to remove the steering wheel by sitting on the frame of the seat, which is rather uncomfortable. Now, the amount of times I've done this over the years, I could probably have a very good attempt at doing this with my eyes shut. So, see, it took no effort whatsoever. Right, leave the nut on. Maybe the nut wasn't on enough. Right, this is actually the wrong steering wheel for this. It's a later steering wheel, but I've fitted it out of personal preference. I'm just going to put that in the bin. And I need that up there. I need that to come off. That is the canceller for the indicators. So the next thing to do, if I get back on my uncomfortable seat, is to remove that screw there and a screw on this side. And what we're going to do here is we're going to rip out the glow plug relay, which, if I remember right, didn't work anyway. It's actually a 300 TDI Discovery glow plug relay that was used in here on the last incarnation. That's the wrong size screwdriver, but if it works, it works. And then you just put your screws up there so you don't fall down the vents and you lose them, you know what I mean? So that's the second one. Right, come back over to here and remove that screw there. Now the ignition barrel thingy is a, what's it? It's a Defender part, 9110 80s 90s part, standard fit on those. It's the same, but it doesn't house the mechanism for the choke cable. So I've either got to find an alternative part, which is probably not going to happen, or I've got to modify that one so I can get the choke pull where I want it. So all these things need to be thought about whilst I'm doing this particular job. So I'm just going to put these screws back inside here. And then what we do is we put the indicators on, and we pull this out, and then there should be a tab on the speedo cable. And again, I'm just sat on thin air. So basically there's a tab on the speedo cable, and I can't find it. I can't even see it. But you push on it, push on this tab, and then as if by magic, the speedo cable will eject itself. Come on, you can do this. It's so simple in principle, but doing it like this. Anyway, I'm going to leave it for now. So, you must remember that the charge light drops out. That happens. So, just stay where I put you, please. There it goes. Right, so I'm just going to drop these down over there for now. So we have the original, well, I say the original, a Durite glow plug relay. that was used in here before, but I decided it would be much better to go to the 300 TDI system, which didn't work in the end. And again, one of the many reasons for deciding that this 200 TDI conversion wasn't to be. Isn't it pull? Yes, that's all the 300 TDI system was. So now I'm going to get in here with the cutters and go snip, 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 snip. Oh no, I've snipped the wrong one. So we have power into this, which is coming from number 1 on the ignition barrel. Plug that one back into there. Try not to break anything as you do it, because that would be a massive mistake. And then where all the other wires go, I haven't got a clue. So before I go much further with the engine, I need to get this engine bay prepped. So that's going to be the next job. Right, here I am back engine bay side, and what we're doing now is we're going to cut every single wire relating to the next attempt. So we're back engine bay side, and I'm just going to cut everything that I don't think I'm going to need out of here. So this is the wire that went to the glow plugs. This was a direct live feed for the glow plugs. That is a wire to get the power down to the starter solenoid on this side. So I'm just going to remove this one now. That blue wire is a feed for that. I'm not worried about that for now. That's the feed for the coil, so I'm just going to sort of tuck that somewhere out the way. So, right then. That's the wire for the fan. So I'm not going to need that because I'm not planning on running a fan anymore. So that's our engine bay wiring. We need to reconfigure this so it can do what we need it to do. While I'm here, I'm going to cut a wire there. Where on earth is that? I'm going to cut this wire tie here, and I'm going to bring that wire around here. What on earth is going on here? Can't you leave me alone? So that wire there is no good. See what I've done here, you obviously can't, what on earth is going on? What you can't see here is 3 wires that were going into a chocolate block connector. So I don't want that anymore. So what I'm going to do here is this wire here is going to have an eye on it like that, and then that's going to go to this starter solenoid, and that's going to be my next job in a moment or two. Right, so I'm going to now crimp on a eye thingy doodah with my crimper here. So this bundle of wires contains 1 earth, 1 heavy brown, and one white and red. The white and red is the actuator for the starter solenoid. That's just going on there. The heavy brown goes on to the main battery feed. I'm just going to leave that loose for now because there are other wires to go on there. And the earth is going to go onto the mounting bolt for the solenoid itself. So I'm just going to come down here. Oh, you are joking. You are having a laugh. I did these up this morning and I did them just with the power of my fingers, but now it seems I can't. Right, so that's back on now. That took only half an hour. And then next we have these wires here. This vehicle is wired with a ammeter. That's the wiring for that over there. So, and now this is the cable for the starter motor. We're just going to feed that through these here. Maybe go behind there. The original cable for this was completely brittle and actually broke up as I took it off. So I've had a brand new one made just this morning. Right, so that's all there. We've got the coil that's going to go on here somewhere. So today we're going to put the engine in. So can we have the forklift to bay 2 please? Oh, I'm the only one here, so I'm going to have to do that myself. Ah, okay. Forklift in bay 1, global's going hot. Yeah, still on my own. Right, next job, frame off and flywheel, clutch and all the rest of that to go on. So we've got a 2.25 petrol back inside this Land Rover here. It's only in loosely. The strap's just on it just for now. We'll have to lift that in a moment. Went in rather easily. No real problems. It was lifting nice and level on this setup here. And so I'm just going to spend the next hour or so just bolting everything back up. So I didn't get it in on my own. I enlisted the help of a friend to come down here on a cold Sunday afternoon and give me a hand to get this thing in here. He has been sort of looked after for helping me out, and I've given him a glow plug timer for a Discovery, so he's done well out of this. So my idea is I'm going to work underneath the vehicle first, and then I can lower it down and I'm not constantly up, down, up, down, up, down. And the reason why I don't want to be like that is because this ramp is 36 years old. It's not in brand new condition. There is a safety interlock providing a cable snaps, but there's nothing to protect you under that in the event of a hydraulic failure. So what I do is I use acro props to support the frame, and it's worked so far. It's worked for the last 6 months and I'm still alive. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just, as I've already mentioned, just go around all the bolts from underneath and get everything bolted up. One tool that I use frequently on Land Rover engine fitments is this 17mm spanner. It's just been warmed up and bent. That's all it is, and it's ideal for getting up inside. Ideal for getting up inside here to get underneath these engine mounts, like this. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to remove the heater here. This is called a Kenlow hot start, or part of the system, and it doesn't work anymore. That's basically the bottom line of the problem. So I thought, while I'm doing this, I'm going to give you a bit of a rundown as to the history of this machine we have here, and tell you a bit about how it came to be like it is. And it was actually the first ever vehicle that my mum painted, and it was painted in Unit 42 even. And Unit 42 is a strange place because it's got a door at each end, and it's the one with the 4-foot drop in the middle. And we painted it in there, and I remember I must have been about 7, and my dad had a lot of trouble with the 2 1/4 diesel that was in here at the time, and he'd pulled the engine out, and me and my mum painted the engine bay with brushes. So I'm just doing jobs as I'm talking here. There's not a lot I can do on the engine at the minute, so I'm just sort of rambling on. And but yes, it was painted in Unit 42, and then eventually, many years later, the entire vehicle was stripped. It was actually put out for scrap, and eventually, after sort of much persuasion from myself to my dad, it was agreed that it would have a full restoration, and so everything got painted properly in individual panels, all except one panel, which you're about to see. So this will be the last part that's never actually seen a coat of red paint going back in here. Of course, when the mats are in, you don't see this anyway, so that's why it's never really been bothered with. But oh, I've almost forgot. So when this thing finally saw the road again about 12 years ago now, we was running a Sherpa engine known as the EN55, the non-turbo version, and it that ran okay, but it just didn't have the power that the 200 TDI offered. But as I have found out, much to a lot of expense, that the 200 TDI is, for me, rather unreliable. So hence the reason why we're putting a 2 1/4 petrol back in. So years ago my parents had an F-Reg Renault van, and it was a typical works van, so it was really dirty, rusty, and just a general sort of van sort of thing. And my mum, as far as cars were concerned, my mum had one rule to my dad, and that was, you can have any car you like so long as it's red. And then this came up for sale, and from a business perspective, they could run a Land Rover that was free to tax, which would instantly save them money, and also use it as a car. And so they bought this Land Rover in 2001, and it became a massive problem. Basically, it was everything that could be wrong with a vehicle, this had wrong with it, and they sort of fixed it and it was repainted in red, because my mum had this rule that my dad could have any car he wanted so long as it was red. So that's why this ended up this colour, and this is a Land Rover colour, and that's why when we got this, it was actually a very sort of dark purpley sort of maroon colour, and so it was relatively easy to go to red. But yeah. Right, this is the last job for today. It's going to be on the camera anyway. I'm running out of storage space. So I'm going to fit the door back on, because all the work left to be done needs to be done on the driver's side. So to fit the door on your own, and these doors are very heavy for what they are, there's not a lot to them, but they are very heavy. I'm going to get it up into position and effectively close the door where I want it to end up, like that. And then I can get the hinge, put the gasket in place, like so, and might be an idea to get my fingers out of there. So get the gasket in place. Sometime today it would be nice. Like that. Get some copper grease on the bolt to help it go inside. And then it takes a couple of attempts just to get the thread started. And the last bolt, and then I'm going to lift that up because that's where I want it to go, and then nip all these up. The door will drop slightly because of the movement in the hinge. On the whole, that's on. I also need to lubricate the door striker and these hinges, because obviously they've not been used for a long time. See that movement there? That shows that this door hasn't closed properly. So all I did was open the door, loosen the 4 bolts, hold the door with my right hand pushing it up, tighten them back up, and now we've lost that slop and we've got a nice solid sounding closing door. I've also lubricated the striker with a bit of WD-40. And that's it for today's projects.